Hello and welcome to Ewe University. I'm Dr. Kelly. How is everybody today? We are finally having a nice spring day after getting rain almost every day for the past 2 weeks. I actually went for a short walk today in a t-shirt. So now that the sun is out, it's starting to look and feel more like spring. And speaking of spring, our flowers today are some pretty roses that I picked up at my local flower shop. They have really opened up today. These roses were only $15 a dozen, which I don't think is bad, especially when I've seen them for $60 a dozen. So yeah, they smell beautiful and I love the peachy color. It just reminds me of spring. Well, you guys know how much I love letter writing and snail mail. And I thought today I would share with you the postcards that I get printed. What I like to do is to take pictures from around my area and turn them into postcards. And these are some of the postcards that I've made out of my photographs. This is one of my favorites, our town square, and the fountain is in the front and the county courthouse in the background. And I also like this one, a round barn that is on a nearby farm. And this is a picture of some pretty trees that I took on campus, on the university campus where I work. And this last one is a covered bridge that's not far from town. And I love the sign on the top of it that says, $5 fine for leading or driving any beast faster than a walk or driving more than 30 head of cattle, mules, or horses at a time on or across this bridge. So I get these postcards printed at moo.com. Here's their website, and I'll put a link down below so you can go see their products for yourself. What I love the most about Moo is that you can upload your own pictures, as many as you want, and have them made into postcards, business cards, stickers, pretty much anything you could want. And then you can get whatever you want printed on the back of them. Now, I just do a standard postcard back, but I do add my return address up at the top. These postcards are such nice quality. The paper is very thick and the picture side is a glossy finish and the back of the card is a matte finish that you can write on. So I've used moo.com for years for all of my printing needs. Yes, they are a little more expensive than other vendors, but I do think it's worth it because of the great quality you get. So again, that is moo.com, and I will put a link to their website below so you can check them out. In knitting this week, I made some progress on the knee socks that I showed you last time. If you remember, I am knitting them top down, 2 at a time, on 9-inch circular needles. And these are a US size 1 or 2.25 millimeter. I'm actually loving doing both socks together because I suffer from severe second sock syndrome. And knitting them at the same time has been a joy. I love knowing that I won't have to knit another whole sock once I finish one of them. I've been knitting a few inches on one and then a few inches on the other as I go. And this week I turned the heel on both socks. I finished the heel gusset, or the gusset decreases too, and now I'm just knitting away on the foot of each of them. So this project is definitely in junior status now. Now this is a pattern that I am just making up as I go. I cast on 64 stitches, did about 1 inch of 2x2 ribbing, and then knit stockinette stitch until the leg was 10 inches long. And at that point, I started the heel flap, and I think the length is going to be good for knee socks. The yarn I'm using is Knit Picks Felice, which is a superwash merino nylon blend. It is nice and soft to the touch and knits up into these pretty stripes. Unfortunately, as of the time I'm recording this, Felice is currently out of stock at Knit Picks, so I won't be able to put a link below, but hopefully they'll get it back in stock shortly. Anyway, as you can see, I put an orange heel in, mainly because I'm trying to conserve Felici so I have enough for the entire foot of both socks. I'm pretty sure that I'll have enough for that. And I figured I would do the contrasting heel and toe not only to conserve the Felici, but to preserve the striping pattern. And this orange yarn was just some leftover yarn that I had from another pair of socks a while back. So yeah, I think these are fun and colorful, and I'm enjoying this project. I'm finding that sometimes I want to talk about a topic in more detail than just chatting in the opening segment of the show. So I thought I would incorporate a segment called The Lowdown, where I can tell you about something and provide more substantive information about it. Today I want to give you the lowdown about lanolin. Lanolin is the natural oil produced by the oil glands in the skin of sheep, and so it coats their wool. You can think of lanolin as analogous to the oil on our own skin and scalp, and actually it is similar in composition chemically. Lanolin serves a couple of important purposes for sheep. It makes their wool waterproof, and it protects their skin from infection because it has antifungal and antibacterial properties. In this picture, you can see that the wool on the left contains lanolin because it has a kind of yellow tinge. The wool on the right has been washed and the lanolin is removed, so it's not yellow anymore. Lanolin is used widely in the pharmaceutical and cosmetics industries. It is easily absorbed into the skin, and it moisturizes the skin and prevents cracking and drying. It has actually been used as a moisturizer since ancient Egypt, but large-scale production didn't start until 1882 in Germany. Lanolin was first prescribed in 1866 as an ointment for treating skin conditions such as chapped hands, eczema, acne, and psoriasis. Since then, numerous scientific studies have shown that lanolin penetrates deeply into the skin. It is more effective than mineral oil, olive oil, and commercial hand and face creams at improving dry skin. Lanolin promotes the buildup of skin moisture and prevents water loss from the skin. So it kind of creates reservoirs of water within the skin. Today I thought I would show you a couple of lanolin products in case you might want to try them out. Now, as I said, lanolin is used a lot in cosmetics, body lotions, and face creams. And I recently purchased some lanolin products to try. And these are from a company called On the Lam. I love the name of this brand, On the Lam. They are an American company that is dedicated to bringing back products from the 1930s, 40s, and 50s when lanolin was a more common ingredient than it is now. What I purchased is a lip balm and a skin cream. For the lip balm, you get 0.74 ounces and it costs $6.80. This lip balm is really good, really moisturizing. I'm kind of a lip balm junkie, and I'm also kind of picky about the kind of lip balms that I use. And this one I found to be very comfortable and lightweight with a nice light honey scent. The lip balm does also include honey and beeswax in the ingredients, so it feels really natural. I've been putting it on my lips at night when I go to bed, and it stays on all night, and I've been happy with it. The other product is a skin cream, and this is a 6-ounce tub, which is the medium size and costs $12.20. They also do have a larger 17-ounce jar and a smaller 1-ounce pump. I have to say I've been loving this cream. I've been using it for a couple of weeks, and I'm telling you, my dry skin has completely disappeared, especially on my elbows. I had some really dry and rough skin on my elbows, and that is completely gone. It's completely smooth now. Now, I purchased these products from a company in North Carolina called Koru Naturals. In addition to On the Lam, they carry a number of other brands of natural products, including some other lanolin products as well. I will include a link to their website below so you can go see for yourself and maybe try some new things out. So, have you used any lanolin products before? What'd you think? Do you like them? Would you be interested in hearing more about lanolin products, or maybe even how to make your own lanolin lotion in a future video? Let me know about your experiences and what you think in the comment section below. Today in the classroom, our topic is going to be the softest yarn in the universe. When I thought about doing this topic, I had a plan in mind that I was going to talk about several animals which produce the softest fiber that is turned into yarn. And I thought I knew what those animals were. But the more research I did, the more surprised I became at how many animals produce extremely soft fiber, even softer than the finest merino wool. So far, I have a list of at least a dozen animals from whom we can get exquisite yarns. And I'm not going to talk about all of them today. I've decided to just cover the top 3 for today's show, and then maybe in future episodes I can talk about the others if you're interested in hearing about them. So let me first say how fiber softness is determined. Well, it's usually measured as the diameter of the individual fibers or hairs. The thinner the hair, the softer it feels. And the diameter of fiber or hair is measured in microns, and a micron is 1/1,000,000th of a meter. So for example, human hair is about 75 to 90 microns in diameter. But the softest fiber that we can make yarn out of is going to be about 1/10 of that. So 1/10 the diameter of a human hair. And we will get there in just a minute. But first, let's start with the animal that produces the third softest fiber, and that is a small South American relative of the camel called a vicuña. Vicuñas are also related to alpacas and llamas. They're only around 3 feet tall at the shoulder and weigh from 80 to 150 pounds. They have a slender body, small head, long neck, thin legs, and long, silky fur. The coat is a reddish-brown on top and white underneath. Vicuña fiber has a micron count of 11 to 14, which is about 1/7 the diameter of a human hair. For reference, the softest merino is around 17 microns, and vicuña is 11 to 14 microns, so it is pretty fine. Vicuña live in the very high regions of the Andes Mountains at altitudes over 10,000 feet. They're found throughout Peru, Bolivia, Ecuador, northern Chile, and northwest Argentina. About 80% of them live on special preserves in Peru, and in fact, they are the national animal of Peru. Their days are spent grazing on the high plains and marshes where they feed on short grasses. They actually can go several days without water and are often seen licking rocks for the salt. At night, they move from the prairies to the steep mountain slopes. Even though their wool coats are very thin, it is extremely good insulation that traps heat from sunlight next to the skin, which keeps them warm throughout the night. These are very delicate and graceful animals that can run up to 30 miles per hour. They're also quite shy and always on alert to their surroundings. They live in herds that have 1 male and up to 15 females, as well as any young offspring that are still being cared for. Females usually produce 1 baby after an 11-month gestation period. The young will stay with the mother until it's about 18 months old. The vicuña have a pretty sad history. In ancient times, the Incas considered these animals to be sacred and reserved their exquisite fiber for creating garments for royalty. They harmlessly caught the animals, sheared them to get the super soft wool, and then released them. It is thought that the vicuña population at this time was over 2 million. However, when the Spanish arrived and discovered the beautiful and soft vicuña wool, they simply killed the animals to access the fiber. And this reckless behavior continued for hundreds of years until the 1960s, when less than 10,000 vicuña remained. Realizing that they were in danger of extinction, conservationists and governments began creating nature preserves to protect the animals and outlawing hunting and the trade of vicuña wool. So for about 30 years, the vicuña were left alone, allowed to recover, and their numbers steadily increased to nearly 200,000. In the 1990s, community programs were started, reminiscent of the old Inca ways of harmlessly shearing vicuñas and managing their population. The chaku is an ancient ritual for gathering and shearing the vicuñas. The ceremony is overseen by a man dressed as a traditional Inca king who leads a traditional dance that gently rounds up the vicuñas into a group. A large assembly of people chanting and holding colorful streamers corral the animals and then shear them, after which they're released. The shearing is done in a complex celebration and thanksgiving that is full of mysticism and ancient rituals. Only the animals whose wool is longer than 2.5 centimeters are shorn, which is about every other year. The vicuña wool coming off each animal is around 120 to 150 grams, which, if you think about it, a skein of sock yarn is 100 grams. So one vicuña's fleece would only weigh a little more than a skein of sock yarn. Vicuña fiber grows very slowly, and each animal is sheared only 5 times at most during their lifetime. The chaku ensures that the animals are treated humanely and that local communities get a share of the income from the sale of vicuña fiber. The vicuña population is currently around 400 to 500,000 animals, which is generally remaining stable, although numbers are decreasing in some areas. As vicuña fiber has become more popular, problems with poaching have arisen. This fiber is very valuable and is sold for large amounts of money on the world market. A pure vicuña scarf can cost $4,500, and a man's coat can be as much as $33,000. This kind of income motivates some people to poach and smuggle vicuña wool, so there is now a big push for improved traceability of international movements of vicuña fiber and products. Now, personally, I do not have any vicuña yarn in my collection. As you can imagine, it is extremely rare and expensive. I know there is a vendor at Stitches Midwest who brings very limited quantities of vicuña yarn to sell, and I talked to him a couple of years ago, and he was telling me about the huge amount of paperwork required to export the yarn from Peru to the United States, and he can only bring something like 6 balls of yarn at a time. Now, each ball of vicuña yarn is 1 ounce and costs $600. Here's the crazy thing. He was totally sold out of the vicuña yarn by the time I talked to him. Not that I would have bought any. I just don't see paying $600 for a yarn, no matter how exquisite it is. But it would have been neat to at least touch it. But can you imagine $3,600 for selling 6 balls of yarn? That is amazing. So that is a little bit about the vicuña, which produces the 3rd softest yarn in the universe. Okay, so now let's talk about the animal which produces the 2nd softest fiber in the universe, and that is the Tibetan antelope, also known as the chiru. The chiru is most closely related to wild goats and sheep, like the American bighorn sheep. They have short, dense, woolly hair that's fawn-colored. Male chiru have long, slender, ridged black horns that curve slightly backwards. These horns can grow up to 23 inches long. They use these horns to defend their harems against rivals. Chirus live almost exclusively on the Tibetan Plateau in the Himalayan mountains. To keep them warm, they have a unique downy undercoat called shatush, which is Persian for king of fine wool. Because of the frigid, inhospitable climate where they live, their wool is one of the finest and most expensive in the world. These antelopes are remarkable runners due to their light and nimble bodies and increased breathing capacity. Despite the atmosphere on the high plateau, they can run up to 50 miles per hour. Smaller than the vicuña, these are another delicate animal, standing only 30 to 33 inches tall at the shoulder. Males weigh less than 90 pounds, while females weigh under 70. Most of the chiru's habitat is over 13,000 feet in altitude, where the average temperature is only 39 degrees Fahrenheit or 4 degrees Celsius. Years ago, Western explorers reported seeing giant herds of 15,000 antelope. Now those numbers are gone today, but herds of 1,000 can still be found. The largest chiru populations survive in northern Tibet, part of which has been designated the largest terrestrial nature preserve in the world. Chiru are currently categorized as endangered, and they're legally protected in China, Nepal, and India, which bans the trade and use of any antelope products. 50 years ago, there were over 1 million of these antelope residing on the Tibetan plateau. It's estimated that only 65,000 animals remained by the end of the 20th century. However, conservation efforts have increased the population to 100 to 200,000. This phenomenal recovery doesn't mean the chiru is out of the woods. Poaching still claims the lives of about 20,000 each year. At this rate, the chiru could be completely extinct within the next few years. The main reason they're being slaughtered illegally in such large numbers is to obtain the chatouche undercoat. Chatouche is finer, softer, and warmer than sheep's wool. Its fiber is 10 to 12 microns in diameter. And again, for reference, the vicuña is 11 to 14 and merino wool is 17 to 22. So it's one of the most luxurious fibers in the world. Chatouche is usually smuggled into India and woven into an extremely fine fabric used to make shawls. The high demand for these extravagant shawls is what nearly wiped out the antelope. A chatouche shawl requires 3 to 5 antelope pelts. Notice I said pelts. The animals must be killed in order to harvest their wool. You might wonder, why do they have to kill the chiru in order to obtain its wool? Can't the hair just be combed or sheared from a live animal? And the answer is that the chatouche comes out of the undercoat, so it would probably require combing to remove rather than shearing. But because the animals are so shy and there is no native ceremony to round them up like for the vicuña, there's really no way to get that fiber from a live animal. So a single shawl requires 3 to 5 antelope to be killed, and it would sell for up to $15,000 for a shawl. Chatouche shawls were traditionally called ring shawls because they're so fine that they can be passed through a woman's wedding ring. Now, the shawls are still made and sold illegally. Despite the chiru's protective status, a 2014 investigation reported that chatouche can still be found at lavish weddings and dinner parties. Arrests have also been made in the United States and other countries for people possessing chatouche shawls. So I obviously don't have any chiru yarn in my collection, and I'm sure none of you do either. At this point in time, it would be impossible or illegal, not to mention unethical, to obtain any chiru yarn. But maybe one day we'll be able to figure out a way to humanely harvest the chatouche and release the animals back into the wild. Maybe something like what they do with the vicuña in South America. I don't know if that's possible, but it would be much better than animals giving their lives for a shawl. And that is a little bit about the chiru, or Tibetan antelope, the source of the second softest fiber in the universe. Now, on to the number 1 softest fiber in the universe. But first, let's do a little quiz. What do you think is the animal which produces the softest natural fiber in the universe? Is it A, Angora rabbit, B, cashmere goat, or C, musk ox? Well, before I give you the answer, let me tell you a little bit about this fiber. It is 9 microns in diameter, which is 1/10 of the diameter of a single human hair. A single fiber from this animal is invisible to the naked eye. It is 8 times warmer than wool and is so lightweight that if someone put a single fiber into your hand, you would not even be able to feel it. It is light as air. This fiber does not shrink or felt. It is hypoallergenic and odorless, and it's easy to care for and can be washed with wool soap. Garments made out of this fiber will drape very nicely and are easily maintained. Have you figured out what it is yet? Do you think it's A, Angora rabbit, B, cashmere goat, or C, musk ox? Well, if you said C, musk ox, then you are correct. Okay, so let's talk about these beasts. The musk ox is more closely related to sheep and goats than to oxen. In fact, they're not an ox at all. The name musk ox comes from the strong scent emitted by males in the breeding season, although it's not actually musk. So it's not musk and they're not ox. They weigh 400 to 900 pounds and are 5 feet tall at the shoulder. Due to their thick, long coat and large head, they appear to be larger than they really are. In fact, they are smaller and weigh about half of what a bison weighs. An identifying characteristic of the musk ox is their horns, which both males and females have. They are sharp, with rounded bases on the forehead, which curve down, out, and then upward like large hooks. The male's horns are much larger than the females and are used during fights with other males in the mating season. The male's horns have a broader horn boss, which serves to protect their skull during the head smashing that occurs during dominance fights. The horn boss can be up to 4 inches thick and as much as a foot wide on adult males. Both males and females use their horns to fight off predators. This is an animal of the far north. They survive in some of the harshest places in the world and are one of the few large mammals capable of living year-round in the severe Arctic environment. During the Ice Age, musk oxen were found as far south as Kansas, but as the glaciers receded, so did the musk oxen. Still, they were widespread across the Arctic. Overhunting wiped them out in many places, but conservation efforts have helped to reverse their decline. Currently, they roam the Arctic tundra of northern Canada and Greenland. During the 20th century, they were successfully returned to Alaska and Russia, where they had been hunted to extinction or simply died out in the late 1800s. And a small population have been introduced to Scandinavia. Worldwide, musk oxen now number about 125 to 150,000, and about 75% of these reside in Canada. A little over 2,000 musk oxen live in Alaska. Today, legislation protects herds in Canada, Alaska, Norway, and Siberia, where many animals live on preserves. Another obvious feature besides their horns is their long, shaggy coat, which gives them the appearance of being more powerfully built than they really are. This thick coat ranges in color from dark brown to almost black. It consists of long outer guard hairs providing direct protection against the weather and a short inner coat to give extra insulation. The outer hairs can be as long as 24 inches. The inner coat is called kiviot and is prized as one of the lightest, warmest wools available from any animal. It grows in time for the winter months and is shed at the end of the winter when the weather starts to warm up. The muskox's short, stocky legs and large, rounded hooves enable it to move through shallow snow and to be an agile climber on snow and rock. They also have a thick layer of body fat that helps them survive the winter. Musk oxen have a low reproductive rate, with single calves born every 1 to 3 years. Environmental factors like availability of food and severity of weather affect whether calves are born annually or at longer intervals. For the most part, musk oxen are slow and calm. However, one of their most unique behaviors is group defense. They're definitely herd animals and live in groups of 2 to 3 dozen. Herds use cooperation to deal with threats by wolves, bears, and other predators. When disturbed, musk oxen run together to form a tight circle with their heads and sharp horns facing outward. Calves are protected in the middle of the circle. Adults will take turns darting out of the circle with their head lowered to attack an approaching predator. In general, the musk oxen's biggest line of defense is its aggressive nature combined with the muscle power in its head and body. It will charge after a threat using its powerful and deadly horns. Okay, so let's talk about the musk ox coat and fiber. As I said, the fluffy, insulating inner coat is called kiviot, and it is made into one of the most exquisite yarns you can ever buy. So how is kiviot collected? Well, the musk ox sheds its coat naturally between April and the end of May, and traditionally you would basically have to walk around the area where the musk ox hang out and collect the tufts of kiviot from rocks, trees, bushes, fences, and the ground, wherever the fiber falls off or where the animals scratch when they're molting. And some of that is still done today. But more and more often, farmers are starting to keep musk oxen as domesticated animals on their farms. The musk oxen are combed in April or May, and the soft underlayer of kiviot is separated from the shaggy outer guard hair. Each animal is brought into a barn where they're put into a combing stall and then combed with a long-toothed hair pick. As you can see, the kiviot can easily be combed and removed from the animal in one big sheet as long as the animal is cooperating. The musk oxen get to munch on grain while they're being combed. Depending on the animal's temperament, a combing session can last from 10 minutes to over an hour. 5 to 9 pounds of this rare fiber is collected from each animal every year. Now, as far as kiviot yarn, I actually do have some kiviot that I haven't knit up yet. I purchased this at Stitches Midwest a couple of years ago. This is 1 ounce of 100% kiviot yarn, which is 218 yards. This yarn is super lightweight. Think about 1 ounce. That is the weight of a first-class letter that you mail through the post office. This yarn is like a cloud. You might be able to see that it has a fuzzy halo, and of course it is super soft. The micron count on kiviot is 9 microns, which is the finest, softest natural fiber known. This yarn is from Windy Valley Muskox in Alaska, and it is $108 for this 1 ounce ball. It does come in 16 different colors, and they also have a number of patterns for sale on their website if you want some ideas of what to make with it. When I do get around to knitting this up, I will probably make some kind of a cowl or scarf out of it because it is so soft and squishy that it just needs to be right close to your face and neck. And as I said before, kiviot is 8 times warmer than wool, so even a small cowl or scarf will keep you toasty. Okay, so that is a little bit about the musk ox and its undercoat called kiviot. And I will put links to everything I've talked about today in the description box below, in case I didn't say that for each thing that I mentioned. Well, that brings us to the end of today's show. I hope you've enjoyed learning about the softest yarn in the universe. Today I covered 3 beautiful and exotic natural fibers and those are from the Vicuña, the chiru, and the muskox. And now I'm curious, have you ever had the opportunity to knit with or even touch any of these fibers? What do you think? What did you make? And did you already know about these super soft and warm fibers? Or which ones were new to you? Also, let me know if you like this topic of the softest yarn in the universe and would like to hear more about exotic fiber animals. Please share your thoughts and reactions in the comment section below. I would love to hear from you. And as always, please feel free to comment if you have any questions about today's show, or if you have an idea for what you'd like to see on future episodes, or if you'd like to see a product tested. Leave your suggestions in the comment section because I would love to hear your ideas. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today, and I'll see you in the next video. I think next week it might be time to talk about silk. Where does it come from? How is it made? What are the different types? What are their qualities? So I hope you'll join me for that discussion. I think you'll find it pretty interesting. Until then, have a sparkly week.